All right, I had promised a mailbag episode here, and I was thinking of trying to integrate it with a live stream, which I'm planning to do. I promise, but I just thought I'd get too distracted when I have gone live. And the questions come in, I get distracted. So I wanted to go ahead and make sure I answer these questions that people took the time to leave me thoughtfully here. And so 2023, January 1st, let's get into this mailbag. First one is from Kendrick the Creative.
Hey, Uncle Al. This is Creative Kendrick from the Discord, and I actually have two questions for you. One is, if you could add any rule to the game of basketball, what would it be? It could be a defensive rule, an offensive rule, just any rule that you think would enhance the game for whatever side or just the game in general. What would it be? And if you could make a basketball shoe, who would be the template, and what would you have the shoe focused around? Would it be focused around on speed or stability, power, or like maybe the bounciness, or whatever? What would your shoe be kind of centered around, and or based whose template you would use to make it? Anyway, have a Merry Christmas, and everybody have a blessed day.
Well, I'll tell you what, my template would not be Steph Curry shoe. No, man, I've spoken about this a little bit with shoes and players. That's the thing is, what is your playing style? What is your build? How do you strike the floor? What is your gait? And it's very specific, right? Like a Zion shoe. And you notice the new Jaws, I know people have compared them to the Kobe's and the Kyrie's a bit, right? But if you look, there's definitely a wider base around the forefoot, and there's more stability, it looks like, in that Jaws shoe because he's up in the air so high. He probably has a little more cushioning, right? Um, to me, it would be traction and containment. Stability goes without saying. Like, you don't want to play in an unstable basketball shoe, right? But traction, and especially like weekend warriors and just casual hoopers, right? You go on these dusty courts, and that can just be a game breaker, especially at my age. I'm not trying to slip nowhere, man. And then containment. I mean, for me personally, I hate when my foot comes out over the sole, right? Or there's just not enough containment in the material of the shoe. So that's what I would focus on with a shoe for myself and what's important to me. As far as a rules change go, how about bring the hand check back? How about bring the hand check back? Now I'm sounding like the old man get off my lawn, right? But I think that what it would do is it would help balance out the sport as far as some post game, right? There's too many threes being shot. It's too perimeter oriented right now. I'm not saying go back to the old school all the time, but if there were hand checks, I think what you'd see is that guys would no longer face up and always, even bigs want to face up and cross over right now, right? All of a sudden, guys are going to start backing people down and turning their back to the basket because the hand check. And so I think it would help balance out the sport. We know that's not happening. Here's something a little more realistic for you. How about if you win a challenge, you get to keep the challenge? They do that in the NFL, right? I know that overall is going to lead to more delays in a game and lengthen a game. But too many times the refs make just a terrible call that forces the hand of the coach to use their challenge when they shouldn't have to. Right? I get it when it's a bang, bang block charge call, but when there's just a terrible call and the coach is like, look, you know what? It's the second quarter, but I've got to use this challenge. This was outrageous. And then now they're out of it. So I think that would be a more realistic rule change that I'd like to see happen, even if it means a little more time in the game.
Hi, Alk. First of all, Merry Christmas. Wish you the best and for your family as well. And my question and concern are about Kuminga. How can he actually improve his ball handling and his footwork if he's not allowed to dribble and to drive in games? Like, we need him to defend and to rebound and to cut. I understand that. But in the long term, I mean, he's not doing that stuff in games now, and I'm not sure. I'm not really sure about practice. Probably he's not really training those stuff, that often as we wish him to train. So I don't really. I mean, I expect Poole to be our leader, like in the near future. Like Poole should be our leader, like the best player, and there's a guy next to him, logically should be Kuminga. So we need him to to really improve his game, to be a well-rounded player. But if he's not really training a ball handling guy now, how is he going to be one in the near future? So that's just my concern. So but I'm interested in your opinion. What do you think of that?
I can do all things was the email there. I appreciate that one. It made me think, like, I don't know. I feel like Kuminga might be the best player in the future. I don't know. I mean, that's obviously very subjective, and I think you're right. The consensus would be this will eventually be Jordan Poole's team. Let me ask you this. It's a rhetorical question, obviously. Like, who has a better handle, Jordan Poole or Draymond Green? Right? And most people will, Jordan, right? Like, he has more moves. To me, ball handling, again, this is subjective. We're getting into like the terms of it. Draymond has much better ball control. Pause. Right? But like, think about it. Draymond can go full speed up and down the court with his handle. He can play slow. He can play in traffic. He can ball pressure. When does Draymond get his pocket picked? When does Draymond lose the ball off the dribble? Right? We know Draymond's turnovers come a lot of the time from too risky of passes, right? But Draymond's handle is underrated. His handle is very good. He just doesn't use a lot of flasher moves, right? And so I think that should be the model for Kuminga. As a bigger wing or forward, it's not necessarily about moves. I know I just covered this in the resolutions video a little bit, right? So I don't think he needs to focus on and it's different as a guard. I get it. You're Poole, you're Steph, you're a little guard. Now you do probably need some moves at times to gain separation. As long as Kuminga has good ball control and can just fundamentally control the ball, the rest will take care of itself with his size and athleticism, right? But I understand what you're saying as far as when does he wear? Again, the fundamentals, and it's not sexy. If you go into a gym where there's a skills trainer, and you'll see some wild drills. Even Wiseman, you remember Wiseman and his little hobbit trainer doing all these little guard skills? It's not glamorous, but just pound dribbles, at your shoulder, at your waist, at your knee, at your ankle, and then just boom, 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 just the fundamentals, just hammer home the fundamentals. And I think he'll get where he needs to be because it ain't about moves with him.
Hey, Al, I think a huge reason why we won the final last year was because we have by far the best four-man backcourt rotation in the league. So it's Steph, Clay, Jordan Poole, and GP2. Now this year, I think three teams are in contention for the title. So it's Portland, it's us, and it's the Grizzlies. So let's just cross Dame, Steph, and Ja. They are the superstars. So which remaining three-man backcourt rotation would you prefer right now? So now it's Clay, Jordan Poole, and Dante versus Grizzlies Desmond Bane, Tyus Jones, and Dylan Brooke, and versus Portland's Anthony Simons, Josh Hart, and GP2. Thanks. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, right? A little late on some of these. I'm going to go, I think Dante is better than GP2, right? GP2 is such a specialist, and this was not. I'm not brand new to this. When we got Dante, I was like, look, he's going to be better than GP2 overall, right? His ability to handle the ball and play make. He's just a much more dynamic player on both ends of the floor. Where GP2, the special defensive guy, right? I kind of played. We just saw Portland, right? I kind of like alluded to this a little bit. Like, I might like Anthony Simons better than Jordan Poole. Now, what I don't know, what adds to Jordan Poole is we know who he is, his work ethic, his love of the game, the progression, what we've seen him battle through to get to where he's at now, right? His confidence, and his determination, right? And so there's like all these intangibles with Poole that I know are there. So that's why, like, long term, I'd probably bet on him more, right? Just to get where he's going to go. I don't know how that Simons kid is wired, but his length, his size, I think he has more defensive versatility and potential. And then his game is efficient and smooth. So I mean, like, I wouldn't be mad if someone was like, I like Simons better than Poole. That's a tough argument for it. And then you look at Hart. Look, on a night to night basis, Josh Hart might be more consistent than Klay at this point, right? But when the lights are bright, when it matters, you got to go with Killa, right? So I'll take the Warriors backcourt when you look at Portland. With Memphis, I actually think Dillon Brooks, he might not even be a net positive for them. I understand like his intangibles, his toughness and energy, his leadership he brings to the team, but he's one of the more irrational, confident shooters in this league, and in the foul trouble he gets them into. And I don't know. I'm not a huge Dillon Brooks fan on or off the court. I think that goes without saying. And then like Desmond Bane. Listen, Desmond Bane, when he's right, he's kind of like a young Klay Thompson, right? I mean, he can give you 7, 8 threes. I think with Bane, you look at his build, I think he's always going to be hurt. You know, he's carrying too much muscle mass. What is he, sprained his big toe or something? I don't know what he was out for this last time, but you look at his build, I'm not sure that's a recipe for longevity in the league, but both of them right, like Bane, Klay, that's a tough matchup. But then you look at Tyus Jones, he's probably the weakest guard on this list of guys. And that's not to diss him, but he's just talent-wise, size-wise, right? And so, I'll still go with the Warriors backcourt when you compare these three. But what you did was you took Steph out, and I think Steph is still the biggest gap when we're talking about separating these backcourts. Yes, Ja's a star, Dame's a star, but Steph's gravity and his effect on a game is still there's a gap between what his is and what Ja and Dame's are. I know they can explode for big nights, but what he does for his teammates, we all know that, right? So I'll still go with the Warriors backcourt. I will say, if we're talking about Western Conference backcourts, you got to mention the Pelicans right now. CJ, Brandon Ingram, and Alvarado, or you can go Trey Jones, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, right? Like, they've got a dynamic backcourt that's maybe not as glamorous, not as high scoring powered or flashy, but when you talk about defensive versatility, that's a backcourt to look out for right now.
Hey, Al, big fan. Love your work. I was wondering what your thoughts were on the Andrew Wiggins injury. They haven't really told too much, and they keep pushing back his, return date, and haven't really given a clear answer on when he might be returning. Just wondering what your thoughts were on that. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Yeah, Ben. Did I bring that? I think it was on the Discord that I brought it up. I was like, I think he had a setback is what I think happened, because why do you bring him on that East Coast road trip and then he never plays, right? It's cold. Like, did he want to go back to Toronto? I don't know. Like, it felt like maybe it was a misdiagnosis, but it felt like he had some sort of setback on the road trip. The adductor, right? To me, I've had that strain. When you do the leg swings like sprinters do, right? That's what you're supposed to warm up that muscle. That's the one I do. But I've never had one linger more than a couple days. But you look at Devin Booker, who had a groin injury, which is it's all in that same area, in that region, right? Whether it's on the outside of the hip or the inside of the hip. And he tried to come back Christmas Day. Now he's out a month, right? And Devin Booker, we have to have that conversation. Is it time to call Devin Booker injury prone? Like, the dude plays like less than 60 games a year, and he's always banged up when it matters. I guess I digress. But back to Andrew Wiggins, whether they're being over precautious with this injury or he had a setback, it sounds like he's going to be due back here Monday, tomorrow against, I haven't looked at the schedule. But I do think that outside of, Draymond had the back issues, which we're not really talking about, but he's having back issues now. I don't know if they're from last year. We all know what he went through, right? And his health. But I don't think it was necessarily a fatigue thing with Draymond going through that championship run, because he had so much time off with the back, right? Outside of Steph, and just the load that he carried all the way through that run last year, Wiggins was a little worn down. I mean, so he's guard Ja, now guard Luka, now guard Tatum, right? And then the way he was hitting the glass and how they were asking him to guard up and play at the power forward spot for a lot of that playoff run, I think he was physically as worn out as any other player on this roster. And so, giving him a rest, as long as he's back to what he's back to, how many days is it? It's been a couple weeks now, right? I think it's going to be a positive for him. I expect him back tomorrow.
Hey, Alk. A lot of people have been saying in order to make the WNBA more entertaining, they should lower the rim. If you were commissioner of the WNBA, what are some of the first steps you would take to make the league more profitable? Thank you.
So what I see with the women's game is, and it starts at the grassroots level, is girls generally start later, right? Most like don't get me wrong, the elite girls, they're hooping when they're like 7, right? But the general girl who plays high school basketball starts in 7th or 8th grade. A lot of the time as freshmen, they're like, hey, I'm going to play basketball, right? And so they're behind. And the coaches, because of this, have to control every little thing, right? Like they're literally like, no, get on the baseline. We're inbounding on the baseline under the basket, right? They're teaching them literally the rules of the game. And so what it's done is it's made the coaches try to control too much of the game, right? Because you'll have 2 or 3 girls that are hoopers. They know what they're doing, but there'll be 2 or 3 girls that are literally learning the rules of the game. And so you see from the grassroots up, the coaches, they just have a chokehold. They want to control every possession of the game. They don't let the flow of the game happen naturally. Then the other aspect of it is because there's less girls that just want to play and hoop, right? If you're a 6'4" girl in high school, you could have relatively no skill. Like you're going to be featured. You're going to play. If you can run up and down the court, you will be featured and you will get touches and you will start most likely on your team, right? And what that feeds up into college is that the game is played through the post. The game is played through the bigs. But the hoopers, the skilled girls that everybody wants to see are the guards. And so I would say the coaching, they've got to relax and let them have a little more freedom and let the guard shine. Let the perimeter play shine. They don't have to have a post touch every possession. It's too controlled. As far as like lowering the rim thing, it'd be interesting, but I think that think about the logistics of it, like at parks and shit, right? At gyms, at tournaments. And now, we didn't lower it enough. Like it'd just be a mess. I don't think you can do that, right? What else we got here?
Yo, Al, Chris Williams here. Been listening to you a handful of years now. Wanted to speak on something I appreciate about your content. I guess specifically with YouTube, but also on your Patreon stuff. There aren't many out there that speak in front of the camera for long periods of time. I think there's, like a connection made when we're allowed to see your emotions and subtle mannerisms that make your personality more memorable and likable. I think that's an important distinction that I hope helps you grow your base. I got a couple questions. One, what's the most you've ever paid for a basketball ticket? And 2, have you ever been starstruck meeting a basketball star or have some story around that? I sort of got my story because it was funny and sort of saved me at the time. I was in Jack London Square years ago eating brunch with my then girlfriend, and I seen this attractive woman come into the restaurant. My girlfriend catches my eyes staring and looks over her shoulder to see who I'm looking at, and right when she looks, Steph Curry turns the corner. The woman was Aisha, and Steph was there holding little baby Riley. Anyways, keep doing you, and Happy New Year's. Stay safe and healthy.
I appreciate that, Chris. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, like the only reason I don't want to do that, like I was doing just the audios for a while, is it's the editing process of it. Now I have a setup where the audio, I don't have to sync it And so I enjoy, interacting, engaging on camera. And what I notice with YouTubers is crazy is how many jump cuts they will put in like a 10-minute video. Now, if I do a 20-minute video, there may be a couple in here, and it's usually because I got to clear my throat, or it's like I lost my train of thought for a second. I don't know if these other YouTubers are doing it on purpose, but it's like they can't hold a thought for like 20 seconds. It's nuts. It's just a generational thing. Maybe it's a TikTok thing. So, tickets. I'm a cheap bastard, bro. I'm cheap, just straight up. So and mind you, I don't really go to games. I haven't in a long time. When I was a kid, when I was in high school at that age, I went to a lot of Warrior games when they were really bad and they were really cheap. I'd say the most I've probably paid is like $300 for a pair of tickets, but that would probably have gone back like 10 years ago for whatever. So, inflation, that'd be maybe $500 today. You know what I mean? But I'm a cheap guy. I also live in Mesa, Arizona. Now, Arizona is a hotbed for sports as far as training. A lot of famous athletes have homes out here and train out here in the off season in the heat and stuff. So I've seen a lot of pro-am athletes, a lot of bums that have like trying to linger and hang around the league, a lot of Chioza type cats. I've never seen Chioza, right? But I've never run into like an NBA star. The most starstruck or closest cool thing that's happened to me was my friend and I were on McKellips Road. All the roads out here are straight. It's a desert. We're down McKellips Road here. And there's this sports car in front of us. It's an exotic, like a little Lotus or something, right? It dropped a convertible. I'm not a car guy. I don't know. It was something exotic. And he's like zipping ahead of us. And we're like, dude, who is this? You see this bald head. Like, who is this, right? Or whatever. So we finally pull up to a light and look over. And it's fucking Sam Jackson. It's motherfucking Samuel Jackson. And because we're like, oh shit, and he just gave a little nod and then peeled out of the light. That's all I got for you with stardom out here in Mesa. Sorry, I ain't got much. Were those all the questions? Yeah, I think that was it, right? Appreciate you, Chris.
Yeah, it's C Donut. It's pronounced C Donut. I'd like to ask you, which of the young core are most likely to play come playoff time? And more importantly, will any of them help fix our road woes down the line at least?
C Donut. I'm terrible with pronunciations, my guy. You always leave me questions. You're a long time supporter, so I appreciate that. It looks like it's going to be Kuminga, right? I didn't hear the end of that. I tried to listen to the end of that. You said, and has a fixed role. It looks like Kuminga is, right? This is kind of obvious that he's establishing himself here as a closer. Kuminga's closing, right? Like when he gets in foul trouble, it's like a problem, Look, if you ran me what are the odds that Moody and Wiseman are on this roster come playoff time? So shout out my guy. We were clowning about my Moody. Go back and find my Moody scouting report. My guy was joking about how I nailed it with his lack of athleticism, even in the report. And so, listen, I doing what I do in the content. I don't have the greatest memory. I'll forget even what I've said because it's like I'm pumping out so much content. But when it comes to like talent evaluations, if I can get the time to really do it, I usually don't miss. Right? Like I'm very prideful in that. If I miss, it's usually because I didn't do my homework. I didn't do it just due, right? Where like for instance, the Giddey, I know draft day, and look, I'll stand on that. I still rather have Kuminga than Giddey, and I think most of you would as well, right? And I what I call Giddey a Harry Potter on stilts or something. And like Giddey is dude, he's got it. Like he's not, I don't think he's going to be a star, but he's a nice player. No doubt about that, right? But I didn't scout him. If you look at that, I didn't scout him. It was just off like my fringe of like, slower, bigger white guard who can't really shoot, like the profile of it. I was like, nah, thanks, but no thanks. But anyway, I digress. I'm getting off subject here. The point is Kuminga, it looks like is solidified, right? And it's not like he's gonna have we need him, right? But Moody and Wiseman, I think, are on the trade block right now. And in that Wiseman ankle sprain thing yesterday was weird as hell, bro. Like, are they just is he like, I don't know, but you watch how even when he's not in uniform or part of the active players, they don't have him on the bench. It's weird. And like, if he's going to rehab the ankle, you do that at the facilities. It's just funny business. And the point is, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Wiseman and Moody are elsewhere come playoff time, and in place are some sort of veteran players.
Alk, baby. What up, bro? Hey, yo, so just real quick out of curiosity, I heard you mention your process a few times as far as like what goes into the breakdowns and whatnot. So yeah, just if you don't mind just diving deep into that, like what really goes into producing the breakdowns as far as like how you take notes, how you watch the film, how you edit, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, if you want to just touch on that a bit, that'd be cool. Appreciate everything, bro.
My guy Rich. So I like to DVR. I have DirecTV. DirecTV, it's trash. But I love having the DVR feature with and not being held to Wi-Fi. I don't want my Wi-Fi or something to happen. So I like the security of DVRing games on my DirecTV and how I rip the recording. I like to start a game about a half an hour late so I can speed through like Fitz and Buki and all the bullshit and some commercials, right? Usually you need about an hour if you want to be able to speed through all the way, but half an hour at least, right? I take notes on an old iPad, and my notes, I mean, they look like Dr. Scratch, right? Like Dr. Scribble. Like they're barely legible, but they're mostly like a timestamp of plays that I want to cover, and then like a detail or thought of it. And then I also will work through, like if I'm, I try to be funny, man, and I understand it's hit or miss. Like I know I'm like jokes are going to miss all the time, but you got to swing, right? That's part of trying to be funny. And so I will also like work through a take or a joke or a bar that I'm trying to get off, like as I jot it down or as the game goes on, and I'll rehearse it a little bit, or I'll play through my commentary in my head with the notes. Next day I sit down with the pad in the editor, and then I'll go through it. I have an idea of the plays I want to go through, but sometimes I'll add something, or I'll figure something out through like Twitter or a DM, like, oh, this. And it's like, oh, let me add that. And then that's where, when I'm taking it through my timeline, I can really slow things down. Like there will be a sequence, I might go over it 10 times because I want to see like, oh, did he take a false step this way before he did this? Because I want to see where the issue originated, or where like, did he really do that? Right? Those small details. And then once it's all edited out, which it takes, I don't know, it can take 2 hours. It just depends on my focus level of what I need to see and how long these back and forth, like a game like the Blazers the other night, or the Utah game. Those games take a long time, right? Where it's like there's all these important phases of the game. If it's a blowout, sometimes it's a lot easier. Once it's edited out and I'm recording, I'm narrating, there's no notes. It's all up here. It's all through, like, again, just running it through my head and the notes I've taken and looking through it. And then I just rip, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, that's the process. All right. Those were the questions from the patrons. And, I'll open up maybe the mailbag to Twitter and get it just with more people opportunity to leave a voicemail and ask questions. And then again, the live streams are coming. I haven't my hesitation, those of you that have followed me a while with live, is I don't want my Wi-Fi to go to shit on me. Again, I've had Wi-Fi issues in this house here. I've lived here like 6 or 7 years. And again, those that have followed me know, I don't know what it is, dude. It's just janky. As I speak, I'm about to have some. No, but I'm gonna start doing those. Yeah, I guess I'll wrap this up. I have a couple bonus takes here for y'all VIPs. I'll get into that now.